Parikshit Maharaj, he expressed the same realization. He was a great king, but not a Zamindar king. He was actually the emperor of the world. And he was at the peak of his youth. And somehow or other he was out in the forest and he got really thirsty, and in his torment of thirst, somehow or other, he acted completely opposite from his nature for just one moment. Because Parikshit Maharaj respected and honored everyone. As the king, he understood on behalf of God, I am everyone's servant. And that's how he lived. But he made a mistake because of thirst. He was bewildered, and he put a dead snake on Samikrishi's shoulder. Samikrishi Prabhu is here. And the little son, Shringi, he was just a small boy. He was so angry. Just as King Parikshit fell under the prey of thirst, Shringi fell under the prey of krodha, or anger. And he cursed the king to die by being bit by a real snake in 7 days. Now, nobody's afraid of a dead snake. But a lot of people are afraid of living snakes. So Parikshit made a little tiny mistake, and he was cursed to die. But he took it as a blessing and went to the river Ganga, Sukatal. That place is not far from here, actually. He just wanted to hear about the ultimate purpose of life from self-realized souls. What is the essence of all scriptures? What is the prime duty of a person who is about to die? That applies to everyone. And Shukadev Goswami, among all the great self-realized seers of the truth, was unanimously requested to speak. And after many days, when Shukadev Goswami was reciting the 10th canto, Parikshit Maharaj explained, previously, I didn't drink water for a few hours and I was so disturbed. But now I have not taken any water or any food. I haven't slept for so many days, and I'm completely enthusiastic and absolutely satisfied because I'm drinking the nectar of the river Ganges that's flowing from your mouth in the form of descriptions of Krishna's Leelas. Because materialistic things can only give some materialistic security and pleasure, at the best. But hari-katha actually awakens the supreme inner treasure of the wealth of the soul, which is immortal. So Narottam Das Thakur was so attracted to hear. And as he was listening to the stories of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya's associates, and even the associates of the associates of the associates, one of his favorite stories to hear was the life of Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya never even directly met Lord Chaitanya. He was a servant of a servant of a servant. But such love, such sharanagati, even through so many difficult situations. When will I meet such a person? That will be the wealth of my life. And ultimately, Narottam Thakur, he left his home and came to Vrindavan. And he stayed where our beloved Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, stayed, at the Radha Damodar temple. And when he first came, who did he meet? Srinivasacharya, Shyamananda Goswami, Jiva Goswami. He was initiated and accepted as his guru, Lokanath Goswami. In this way, this was about over 400 years ago. Vrindavan was a very simple place. When Lord Chaitanya came here 500 years ago, practically all of the holy places of Vrindavan had been forgotten over the millenniums since Krishna's appearance. So many foreign invasions, so much plundering, so much destruction. Lord Chaitanya came here to revive Vrindavan in its true glory. He personally worshipped Gopal, or Srinathji, who was installed on top of Govardhan hill and who came down for the Lord's to give his darshan. According to scriptures, he really wanted to find Radha Kund and Shama Kund. And he was asking in the area of Aritagram, where Aristasura was liberated by Krishna. He knew it was in that area. And he was asking the sages and the rishis and the villagers, and no one had any clue where it could be. But being Krishna and Sri Radha in one, Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Krishna Swarupam, he found 2 puddles in a paddy field. And everybody would walk by those puddles. Sometimes their cows or buffaloes would drink from the puddle. And here is this most beautiful, most merciful sannyasi who is attracting everyone's hearts. We spoke yesterday when he first came to Braj Bhumi in Mathura at the Keshavji temple, Krishna's birth site. He performed kirtan. It was so beautiful. The tears of love and compassion that poured from his lotus-like eyes, his long arms that extended below his knees, raised very high, invited everyone to participate. And literally, according to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, hundreds and thousands of people, where they all came from, very difficult to understand. Everyone from everywhere was coming to be part of this kirtan. In his association, they forgot all the sufferings of material existence because he flooded them. Param drisva nivartate. With the bhav, the love of the soul. So here he was in a little paddy field, and he sees these ordinary looking little puddles, and he's offering his prostrated Dandavat pranams. In ecstasy, he's crying, he's chanting, he's dancing, he's offering prayers. He's bathing in those puddles. He's taking the mud from the puddles and putting the 12 tilak marks on his body, and he's getting Balabhadra Bhattacharya's assistant to collect it for him to take with him wherever he goes. He discovered Radha Kund and Shama Kund. He lived at Akruragat. He would go to Imli Tal. It is described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita the many places that he discovered. And after being in Vrindavan for 2 months, just to please his devotees, he was willing to leave. He did not want to leave, but it was the desire of his devotees. And on his way, he was carrying the treasures of his experiences of Vrindavan in his heart in such a special way. Just days after he left here, at Prayag, he met Rupa Goswami. And for 10 days instructed him. And then just after that, he went to Varanasi and met with Sanatan Goswami and instructed him for 2 months. Then returned to Puri. But he told both of them, on my behalf, you go to Vrindavan. I want to be there, but my mother and all my devotees want me to be in Puri. So to fulfill their wishes, I will be there. But on my behalf, you go to Vrindavan. And you rediscover on the basis of the Holy Scriptures, of the ancient maps, and the realizations, the love that I empower within you. You discover these holy places that are forever there, but just forgotten. And you excavate them. And rediscover the ancient deities that have been there since the time of Krishna's great-grandson. And build temples for them. Vrindavan was a simple forest at that time. There was no lights. There was no running water. Believe it or not, there was no air conditioning. I was recently with someone who told me when they were children, there was practically no such thing as air conditioning. Only the wealthiest people had air conditioning. Lived his whole life without air conditioning. And it was no big thing. Because if you don't have it, you don't need it. But now, cars are air-conditioned, houses are air-conditioned, stores are air-conditioned. If in the summer, it's unlivable. It's impossible to survive without air conditioning. You see, that's the way the world is. Srila Prabhupada explains that we make countless unnecessary necessities. We could live so nicely without all these things, but when we have them, and everybody else seems to have them, then we need them. And in the material sense, progress is when we have more and more facilities to provide for unnecessary necessities. And we become dependent. The more we have, the more we depend on what we have. But from a spiritual perspective, which was so much personified by the six Goswamis, real progress in our life is Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. It's our detachment. Progress is detachment. How much we don't need any of the stuff. How much we are not dependent on things. We learn to depend on Krishna. Sharanagati. We learn to surrender to Krishna. And then we become really filled with something so beautiful. Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they were prime minister and home ministers for the king of Bengal. They were likened to billionaires. But they left everything to come to Vrindavan on the order of Lord Chaitanya. And they were sleeping only on the ground in the summer, in the winter. They would only wear clothes, just simple kopan, just a cloth that goes around your waist, maybe a little chadar. And they only took those clothes that other people threw out as garbage and washed them nicely and put them on. And they would beg for food. And Vrindavan at that time was a very simple village and forest, mostly forest. So what do people give beggars? But they were always absorbed in the highest happiness of the love of the gopis. Jiva Goswami, their nephew, came to live with them. He wrote over 400,000 beautiful Sanskrit verses in poetry. And along with Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, they wrote hundreds and hundreds and thousands of verses, dozens, hundreds of books. Nobody could write like this today. It was all original composition. There was no computers. There was no dictaphones. There was no printing presses. They would just take some bark from trees and somehow or other make some paper and then get some herbs in the ground and make some ink and just, dip something in it and scratch. They had to actually scratch it in. Sometimes palm leaves. You see, we really don't need all this technology. We can use it in Krishna's service. But if we depend on it, it becomes an impediment. Real detachment, real freedom. You can have computers. You could even ride in airplanes. Yukta Vairagya is, we're not depending on these things. We will use whatever's favorable for Krishna's service. And if all this stuff gets taken away, we'll just go on serving with whatever Krishna provides. And we'll be happy. Why? Because Krishna's happy. Bhakti is not about me being happy. Bhakti is about Krishna being happy. When you water the root of the tree, that water extends everywhere. Because that's love. If you love someone dearly, deeply, profoundly, and that person is miserable, can you be happy? But if you really love someone, and there are so many instances in history where we're willing to endure all kinds of suffering or even death for the happiness of a loved one. In material sense, that's considered true love. It's that kind of sacrificial love that touches our hearts when we read about it or see it. But the perfection, the truth of that love, is the soul's desire to see Krishna happy. And that's part and parcel of Krishna's love within our soul. Sri Radha only wants Krishna's happiness. And Krishna only wants our happiness. That is the spiritual world. To depend on that love, whatever the situation that may come in our life, health or disease, success or failure, victory or defeat, heat or cold, honor or dishonor, Krishna, how can I please you? How can I make you happy? That consciousness and the endeavors that are born of that consciousness is bhakti. And Krishna reciprocates. This is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He says the greatest contradiction that's impossible to understand with material intelligence. These truths can actually be understood only by Bhagavan's grace. Is that the gopis, they absolutely don't have the slightest thought ever for their own happiness. They don't care about their own happiness. Because the depth of their love, they just want Krishna to be happy. They just want Sri Radharani to be happy with Krishna and Krishna to be happy with Sri Radharani. And because they have no desire for their own happiness, Krishna gives them the ultimate, ever-increasing, complete happiness. Rupa Goswami tells that when Sri Radha is serving Krishna, if tears come to her eyes so much that she can't properly see to serve, she condemns her ecstasy. And he gives another example of Dwarka, Krishna's servant. He was fanning Krishna very nicely. It was a hot day. And as he was seeing the beauty of Krishna, he went into such ecstasy. His arms were trembling and tears were welling in his eyes, and he couldn't even see Krishna due to his ecstatic love. And he was condemning his ecstasy. Go away. I just want to make Krishna cool and happy. to the degree we're actually detached, we can be completely attached to God, to Krishna. When Narottam Das Thakur came to Sri Radha Damodar temple, he was living with these devotees. Lokanath Goswami at the time, he was feeling great separation from Lord Chaitanya, who was his best friend as a youth, from Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, who had left this world, who were his Shiksha gurus and dearmost friends. And he was living in such simplicity. And Narottam Das Thakur, he wanted what Lokanath Goswami had. Materially, he had nothing. But spiritually, he had everything. Lokanath Goswami told Narottam Das Thakur, I have already made a resolution that I will never initiate anyone in my life. I haven't done it, and I have no intention to do so. I'm sorry, I cannot fulfill your wish. What is a blessing? Sometimes we ask for blessings. Sometimes we demand blessings. Sometimes we try to purchase blessings. But that means we don't understand what a blessing is. From a spiritual perspective, a blessing is the spontaneous good wishes that are coming from the heart of a saintly person. When that spontaneous good wishes come from the heart, that is truly a blessing. Krishna is the origin of blessing. He is Varada. So Narottam Das Thakur didn't demand. He didn't debate. He didn't expect. He served. Lokanath Goswami would not allow anyone to serve him. But Narottam Das Thakur understood every morning he bathes in the Yamuna, and before he would go in the forest, he would respond to nature's call. So Narottam, early morning, would go to that place, and he would clean it with his own hands very carefully. While he was doing it, he wasn't taking selfies. Posting it on Facebook. Except for the Paramatma Krishna in his heart, nobody in the entire creation knew what he was doing. Even Lokanath Goswami didn't know. And he didn't want anybody to know. He just wanted to serve. He had such a genuine desire to serve. And this is what bhakti is about. It's not about doing something to get fame and followers. It's about pleasing Krishna. For many days, in the middle of the night, he would go into this dark place. He didn't have flashlights. But somehow or other in the moonlight, he would clean. And every day when Lokanath Goswami, or every early morning when he would come, Everything was so fresh and nice. And where is yesterday's deposits? So after some days, it was just so pleasing and so nice to be there. So he decided to rise really early in the morning and go to see who's coming. And he was behind bushes. And there he saw Narottam Das Thakur, with a little brush on his knees, sweeping and with water sprinkling. He was cleaning with the same type of care and devotion as a pujari cleans the deities. And he was just doing it to please his guru, without his guru even knowing. That was his service. And when Lokanath Goswami saw this, his heart flooded. Narottam, what are you doing? You are the son of a king. You are living in great wealth. You're one of the greatest scholars in the world of the scriptures. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu have personally appeared in your life and given you grace and direction. Why? Why are you here in the middle of the night, every night, cleaning my urine and stool? Narottam bowed his head with folded palms, and with a faltering voice, he said, "My beloved Guru Maharaj, I have given up all those things in this world, and I have attained the greatest wealth. This menial service to a Vaishnava." Lokanath Goswami, he decided, "I will initiate you." Narottam didn't demand it. And to the degree, we cannot imitate this, but to the degree our relationship is based in selfless service, with Krishna in the center, to that degree we're really connected with our Guru, with the Vaishnavas, and with Krishna. Srinivasacharya, Shamananda, Narottam Das Thakur, they all had different Diksha Gurus. Srinivas was initiated by Gopal Bhatt Goswami. Shamananda Goswami by Hriday Chaitanya in Odisha. But they all studied with Jiva Goswami. And they were best of friends. In the Radha Damodar temple they would study. That is the place Rupa Goswami had his bhajan kutir. That is the place that Jiva Goswami laid his body in samadhi. That is the place that the 6 Goswamis would regularly meet to take prasad, to have Sankirtan, to discuss Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and Sri Radharani and Govinda's Leelas. That is the place they would discuss all of their various realizations for revealing Vrindavan to the world and making it a holy place. Revealing it as a holy place. And building temples and showing the sights of Krishna's pastimes so people could come and experience the grace of Sri Braj Bhumi. It is the place they discussed their various literatures being written. It's where the library of all the Goswamis' books were being kept. And that is the place where His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada made his home. He was living at the Bamsi Gopal temple near Yamuna. And somehow or other, though, 2 rooms came available. It was actually Radha Damodar. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Pushpa Samadhi is there at Radha Damodar, as is Jiva Goswami and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Bhugarbha Goswami and so many others. They actually invited Srila Prabhupada to be there because they knew his mission. Vedaham samititani varadamanani chajana bhavishani chabutani mam tivedana kashchana. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, He knows everything that has happened in the past. All things happening in the present, and all things to come. That is Krishna. He knows everything. That is the inconceivable, unbelievable, incredible Shakti of the Lord. He can know everything that's going to happen and not in any way interfere with our independence. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. It's beyond logic. It can only be understood through grace. And that grace is accessed when we hear with faith from those who have that faith. Srila Prabhupada lived for many years at Radha Damodar Temple to serve the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he has empowered the 6 Goswamis. It was the order of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. And there he prayed and worshipped. And there he served. He had no facilities. He had no one to help him. But he was absolutely absorbed and happy because he was pleasing Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita tells in many places, as the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, that Lord Chaitanya came to spread pure bhakti through Harinam Sankirtan throughout the world. We have quoted that Lord Chaitanya, he made a garland with the flowers of the holy names of Krishna, Harinam and Prema, pure love of Krishna. He wove a garland with love for Krishna and Harinam. And then he garlanded the entire world. So when Lord Chaitanya sent Rupa and Sanatan Goswami to Vrindavan, He did it to reveal Vrindavan to the entire planet. And the very headquarters where they met, they prayed, they chanted, and they danced, and they feasted, and they prepared. Srila Prabhupada was invited to prepare for his mission in that place. And it was 50 years ago from this year that Srila Prabhupada departed from Vrindavan. After 30 days at sea, arriving in a strange place with nothing and no one, he explained he felt complete confidence because he had the order of his guru. He had some boxes of his translations and purports of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he had the holy names of Krishna. He was depending on that grace. He was trying his best. We described yesterday how on November 8th, 50 years ago, he wrote a letter to a god brother asking for some help, some funding. Let's get some property, send some people. So he was trying, but he was never discouraged because he wasn't depending on that. Whether he lives or dies, he's trying to do his service. That was his mood. Jaladuta, he offered his prayers. Krishna, I have no words that can be understandable to these people. Let them be happy. Speak through me. Only your words can make them happy. And now, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people are coming to Vrindavan by the divine grace of one man who left here penniless when he was 69 years old, but whose heart was filled with Krishna's compassion. Yesterday, we were discussing Krishna's appearance simultaneously in Gokul and Mathura. The next morning, Yashoda Mai, she woke up from her sleep and she saw little baby